I'm very happy to welcome you all. We are starting the International Symposium on Educating Future Lawyers for Just and Sustainable Society, which is jointly organized by Institute of Law, Nirma University, in association with South Asian Network for Justice Education. We call it Sanjay. Most people know Sanjay and Gage. Um, I would request Professor Dr. Purvi Pokhariyal, Director and Dean, Institute of Law, Nirma University, to say a few words in the beginning of the symposium.
Thank you, Varsha, and all the panelists, Professor Krishna Dev Rao, Professor Lisa Bliss, Professor Catherine Klein, Professor M.R.K. Prasad, my colleague, Professor Varsha Ganguly, Arpit Sharma, all the faculty colleagues and dear participants. I, on behalf of the Institute of Law and on behalf of the South Asian Network on Justice Education, welcome you to this symposium. As a group, like-minded professional group, we have been deliberating always on the issues of training, how to train the lawyers, how to inculcate the values, how to because we as a law schools, we are all into the market-driven society, wherein students always look at the placement as the ultimate goal, but how to train this budding lawyer for the community sense of justice, how to develop them, how to develop the skills which really help them to realize the goals of access to justice. And as a small group, Professor Asha, Professor Sashu, Abhairaj, with the help of Professor Prasad, Professor Krishna Deva, we were deliberating on this issue, and ultimately we came up with the idea of Sanjay. And we were thinking that why don't we start some kind of a deliberations on these issues, and as a part of that whole idea, we thought to have this symposium, 2-day symposium, and we try to cover so many schemes, so many themes under this symposium, and I'm very glad that probably we are covering most of them in this 2-day symposium. So I, on behalf of ILNU and on behalf of Sanjay, welcome you all. I also invite Professor Asha Bajpai to share a few words about Sanjay. Please, Asha.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Purvi, for the organizing such an important conference, and which is much needed because we all need to know how to educate future lawyers for just and sustainable society. Now, coming to Sanjay, who's partnering with the Nirma Institute of Law in organizing this conference. How did this whole idea of Sanjay come into? We heard about networks in UK, in USA, in various other countries. You had networks for clinical legal education. In India, we did try to bring about a network several times, but somehow for various reasons where there were several barriers and maybe institutional barriers, funding barriers, it didn't work out. Then there was this conference at Nirma 2 years back. And during this conference, which was a regional conference of South Asia, and various academics, lawyers, all had come over there. And during this conference, it was decided, in fact, it was a resolution that was passed, that we come out with the South Asian Regional Network. And because of this South Asian Regional Network, the birth of Sanjay was there. Sanjay means South Asian Regional Network. And the goal of Sanjay is spreading clinical legal education and justice education throughout the region of South Asia. Several we have an advisory committee in which many of our Gage members are also there. Professor Frank Block is there, Prasad is there. All of us are there as members of advisory committee. We also had the first meeting of the advisory committee, and very rich and valuable suggestions came through the advisory committee. And this is the first regional attempt that we have done along with Nirma Institute of Law, so that Sanjay has partnered with this with Nirma, and we are hosting this conference, and so that we spread justice education and how to train future lawyers. So our motto, our goal of Sanjay is spreading legal awareness, spreading justice education initiatives, creating networks in South Asia, laying down standards for justice education for clinics throughout the country and throughout the region. We have several clinics in various law schools because clinical legal education is compulsory, but there are no standards as such. You have part-time clinics, you have full-time clinics, you have clinics working on weekends. So there is nothing, and everybody has their own agenda. So we do not have any set standards, nor there is any networks that is required. So Sanjay has tried to fill this gap. So thank you. I think this is a brief introduction of Sanjay.
Thank you, Asha. Over to you, Varsha, please.
Yeah. Thank you, El, and warm welcome again to all the participants and the very eminent panelists. So we begin the symposium now, and today's theme is promoting social justice through performing arts. Now, I, as a development sociologist and the moderator of this session, look at social justice and justice education as a very multidisciplinary actions and avenues for promoting social justice. And I see is that when I said social justice, students of any any discipline, and when I say student, is not per se student, but yes, belonging to any faculty. And the moment we are aware of need for social justice, or say most common socio-economic problem of poverty and then associated disparities and the inequalities and so on, maybe in terms of gender, class, and in India particularly caste, and on race, and etc. etc. But my point is that any student, the moment student identify the need for social justice, students try to reach out to those communities, those marginalized people who really need that support. And that extension is the one of the very important extension is the performing art. We also call it mass media. We also call it alternative media. We also know it as low cost media. But the basically the attempt is to reaching out to people who need social justice, and that's how we try to promote. It could be maybe like legal awareness, legal counseling, support, aid, and there are various ways we try to reach out to the people who need social justice. And I'm very proudly saying this, that we have very stalwarts of people engaged with justice education over more than 2 decades, 3 decades. And they are going to talk about justice education, interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, and how to promote social justice. The first of them is Professor Srikrishna Deva. He's Vice Chancellor, National Law University, Delhi. Sir is an eminent scholar, and he is known as an eminent teacher and a scholar in criminal law and access to justice. He is a chairperson of Committee for Reforms in Criminal Law, constituted by the Ministry of Home Affairs and Government of India, to recommend reforms in the India's criminal laws in a principled, effective, and efficient manner. Sir has been a Fulbright scholar visiting fellow at the University of Washington, visiting fellow at the School of Oriental and African Studies, which is known as SOAS. He's also been a foundation fellow at the Center for Culture, Media and Governance, Jamia Millia University. Sir has received awards, and one of the most known one is the Kumarappa Reckless Award, the highest award of the Indian Society of Criminology, for his contribution to teaching, research, administration in criminal justice education. He has also been awarded Dr. B.S. Hekkerwal and Professor Sushil Chandra Award from ISC, and he has undertaken several research projects. And he is going to talk about one of the projects and where he has used performing arts for social justice, promoting social justice. I invite Professor Dr. Srikrishna Deva to have his lecture on legal empowerment through street theatre, some ideas from India. Sir, I welcome you.
Yeah. Professor Purvi, Director and Dean, Institute of Law, Nirma University, Professor Lisa, Professor Catherine, Professor M.R.K. Prasad, Professor Asha Bajpai, Sarasu, Varsha, Arpita, and friends. My congratulations to Nirma University for organizing the International Symposium on educating future lawyers for just and sustainable society, promoting social justice through performing arts in association with South Asia Network for Justice Education. I'm glad to know that the South Asia Network for Justice Education has chosen very important relevant theme for this international symposium. The Sustainable Development Goal, Goal 16, we are all aware, advocates peace, justice, and strong institutions, and promoting rule of law and human rights. Justice is also the primary and central concern of legal education. It explores to such ways and means to find alternatives to the problem of massive justice gap that exists between huge demand of legal services to the poor and inadequate services of trained lawyers. This justice gap excludes other people and communities from justice delivery, and therefore it becomes necessary to address injustice perpetuated by this justice gap. Some of us, we strongly believe in the Indian and South Asian context, the massive legal literacy is required to address this justice gap. This will be possible, perhaps maybe through the use of innovative and creative methods of performing arts, songs, drama, theater. In India, all of you are aware, is a multilingual, multicultural, and an amazing country which has several languages, dialects, cultures, several innovative forms. So therefore, the challenge, I also firmly believe that the challenge to justice gap cannot be solved simply with more lawyers, judges, and courthouses. A paradigm shift thinking is required. It's in this context, I think the current international symposium exploring use of performing arts is a very welcoming step. Sometimes I think in our clinical legal education, our legal aid work, our community lawyering, we have not given sufficient thought to use the performing arts. Let me share two ideas today very briefly. Firstly, exploring use of performing arts in justice education, particularly justice work. And secondly, my experiences in legal empowerment work. First, let me speak about exploring use of performing arts in justice work. The literary, cultural, and artistic forms of expression are efficient tools for connecting with the people and the society. In the legal research and social research, we know whenever we study how the law performs in the grassroots level, law in the books and the law in the action. We believe that how do we connect with the people? How do we develop a rapport with the people? I think in the justice work, this performing arts plays a very important, prominent role in connecting with the people and the society. These forms of performances have been used throughout the world as powerful tools of communication for social justice causes, leading to social change. Songs, drama, and theater offers complement songs, drama, theater complements the justice work. Songs serve to inspire youth and students and introduces societal problems such as poverty, inequality, discrimination, as Varsha said about gender discrimination, caste discrimination, and several other forms of discrimination, abuse, and also challenging practices of injustice. Our friends in the United States know about Bob Dylan, the recipient of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2016. Is a role model for his songs and known for amazing performances in the United States. Bob has acquired craft of summing up the song in his characteristic colloquial style. The courts in the United States have also used Bob's lyrics as coherent and structural jurisprudential philosophy. Bob's songs about law, particularly Crying Like a Fire in the Sun, Absolutely Sweet Mary, are some of the fascinating songs and examples. We have several eminent ballad singers throughout India. Some of them may be known, most of them are unknown and unsung heroes. So the justice work still needs to use these and mainstream performing arts into our work and into our justice work. I'll give one recent example of using music for social justice in India, particularly in the southern part of India in Tamil Nadu. T.M. Krishna is a musician who used this old Tamil song, Porambog Padal. This is an old Tamil word meaning shared use for community resources like water bodies, seashore, grazing lands that are not assessed for tax purposes. We call as a common property resources. This musician T.M. Krishna has used to campaign this common property resources to reclaim the word and restore its worth. So you can give several examples about how songs, drama, theater has been used in India in several ways in the freedom movement, in the post-independent India. Theater is another best way to convey social messages through songs, plays, and dramas. It has a long-lasting and powerful impact. In India, we call street theater as a nukkad natak in Hindi or people's theater. And this is a form of drama, which is an important tool to create awareness and to build rapport and connect with the people. The informal atmosphere, any place this nukkad natak or street play can be performed, in a college, in a bus stand, in a slum, in a town. So this informal atmosphere, crisp script, intimate and informal conversations gives a real lifelike look. It enlightens people and a powerful tool to spread justice education. We also have, way back in the colonial India in 1876, the British government was so scared about the people's theater. They have brought a legislation to censor the theater. That is an infamous, the Dramatic Performances Act 1876. The censorship of theater in India has a long history, which dates back to the colonial era. It was the year 1872 when the Calcutta National Theatre Society staged a play called as Neel Darpan. This exposed oppression of Bengali farmers at the hands of British indigo planters. Several plays challenging and subverting the British rule were performed. I think that led the British government at that time to pass this legislation to censor the theatre in India. This was the infamous Dramatic Performances Act in 1876. As per this act, the state government has the power to prohibit and play in a public space which is of scandalous or defamatory nature, likely to excite feeling, defection to the government established by law, or likely to deprave and corrupt persons present in the performance. I think the plays being banned from performances in India were Neel Darpan, Anand Mat, and Marathi play of Vijay Tendulkar, Sakaram Binder in 1974. Friends, let me share now my experiences in using performing arts in our legal empowerment work. My first experience of using performing arts was the time when I was, with the help of young students, was trying to develop land rights paralegal program in a Hyderabad law school way back in 2003. And I was offering this course on legal aid and public interest litigation clinical course. And some students came and told me that this is a lot of issues are there in the Andhra Pradesh, particularly the Telangana state now. There's a pending land disputes. Several cases are pending in the revenue courts, land tribunals for years together. And this is a quasi-judicial forum. So students came with an idea. They said, let us study one revenue place in a district in this state. So then we went there. And while doing this dispute resolution, several of these farmers started coming to us. They said, please tell us about what is this land, why this is a dispute, why it is pending. And students amazingly, immediately within 2-3 days, I think we were there in that village almost more than 2 weeks. And then we went several times. And the basic way how we have used the performing arts such as song, drama, and you have several musical instruments in India. So you have a tabla, you have a harmonium, you have several of these. So with the song and the musical instrument, when you go into a small village or a small place, so you could see hundreds of villagers used to come, and they have also adopted at that time that you should also spend a time and form a small union to help them. Wherever the students went to that village, they have also formed a union to help them in resolving the disputes and connecting with the legal aid board and the district collector later on. I think that was first time we realized that we have to use this. I think that resulted in later on, first time in India, land rights paralegal program, which was later the government of Andhra Pradesh has initiated a major reform. It was a part of Rural Development Institute, Seattle, which is now called as Landisa in the United States. That was the time the Landisa was helping the Andhra Pradesh government, and that was an initiative I have really enjoyed. First time I have started thinking that I have become yet again a student. Well, of course, I can't sing and dance at that time, but I think that's a live connection with the community. Second, my experience is about the construction workers clinic in the National Law University, Delhi. This was part of our Access to Justice for Marginalized Communities project, supported by the Department of Justice, Government of India, and UNDP. This was during 2011 to 14. At the time, we were looking at labor laws, particularly the building and construction workers legislation, which was a very progressive legislation, but which has not been implemented for years together. And you know, real estate construction is a major source of revenue for all the state governments. What we have seen during the pandemic, the migrant workers walking around India is majority comes from the construction labor. So we started looking at how do we really implement this legislation. Then we realized Building and Construction Workers Act and Building Cess Act, where there are about all state governments in India has imposed 2% of the revenue, whatever comes from the real estate will come into the state government. And the massive money which is being there with the state and central government, which is unspent. Then we are looking at with the students, we are critiquing about this legislation. The entitlement and benefits the migrant labor construction worker will get only when they have been formally registered under this Building and Construction Workers Act. I think that's a major gap. And that's a complete vacuum. Then we said we have to start. We have identified in around Delhi, we went to the public construction site, private construction site, and then how do you get more community rapport with them? It's, again, this Nukkad Natak was a famous one. And that's where we were able to go to the construction site and perform this plays, drama, songs, and then the workers used to come. And then we started mobile clinic, register them, bring the legal service authority, bring the labor department. With all their association, we were able to do several hundreds of registration for these building and construction workers. I think that's another place where we realize that this is a very important, and this has facilitated use of performing arts, facilitated registration process of the 2,000 workmen at the construction site, and several people were able to get the benefits because of this. Street play helped us in creating awareness and completing the registration of workers. Let me conclude with the memorable observation of the Indian Supreme Court 42 years ago. That's a Hussainiara cartoon case 1980, where Justice P.N. Bhagavati, who was the pioneer of the public interest litigation, the Indian context, this case is related to prison justice, but it symbolizes the reach and grasp of justice work. Let me quote what Justice Bhagavati 1980 said in Hussainiara cartoon. I quote, "In dark cells of our prisons, there are large numbers of men and women who are waiting for justice patiently, impatiently perhaps, but in vain. Justice, a commodity which is tragically beyond their reach and grasp. Law has become for them instrument of injustice, and they are helpless and despairing victims of the callousness of the legal and judicial system." The court further observed that the time has come when the legal and judicial system has to be revamped and restructured so that such injustices do not occur and disfigure the fair and otherwise luminous face of our nascent democracy. This was in 1980, Indian Supreme Court said. Let me hope performing arts may provide a solution to revamp and restructure the justice system. My thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my views and ideas with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We move on to the next session. Before moving to the next session, I have a few instructions to share. This session will be jointly organized by Professor Dr. Catherine Klein and Professor Dr. Lisa Radtke Bliss. And they are planning they are planning a group session where we will all so exploring interdisciplinary law clinics, and they are planning that we will break in different groups, And each group will have 8 participants. So we have about 90 participants. So we'll make 11 to 12 groups, and we will discuss it for 8 minutes. Both the professors will pose some questions, and every group will discuss on that. We come back by the 9th minute, and then the session turns interactive, and then the question answer and the discussion will take place. We hope that we'll be able to do this very efficiently, because this is a technically and technologically challenging, and of course communication related challenges are there, but both the professors are very capable of managing that and handling that, because they've handled numerous workshops. So we try to make this session as interactive and as interactive as possible. I would like to introduce both the professors who are jointly organizing this session. I am happy to introduce Professor Dr. Catherine F. Klein, working with Columbus School of Law, Catholic University of America. She is the director, the law school's in-house clinical program. She is the director, families and the law, one of the first law school clinical programs in the US addressing the issue of domestic violence through individual representation, community outreach and education, and legislative advocacy. Her core areas are clinical legal education and access to justice. She is currently a member of the steering committee of the Global Alliance for Justice Education, GAGE, actively working on the development of law school clinics and other innovative teaching methodologies. And she has helped organize a lot of CLE conferences in Turkey, Jordan, UAE, and Qatar. I take this opportunity to introduce Professor Dr. Lisa Radtke Bliss. She is Associate Dean of Experiential Education, Clinical Programs and Clinical Professor. She works with Georgia University College of Law in Atlanta, Georgia. Both are USA based. Lisa is co-director of Health Law Partnership, Legal Services Clinic, a medical legal partnership with Atlanta Legal Aid Society and Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, one of the largest pediatric clinical rare providers in the US. She is currently serving as co-president of Global Justice Education GAGE and is a member of the board of directors and steering committee. She has organized and presented numerous training of trainers workshops, including in Turkey, India, Mexico, Indonesia, and Thailand. And we were just before the symposium was to begin, everybody was in India were fondly remembering her about the workshop that she has organized. So I invite both the professors who are jointly conducting the session, Professor Dr. Catherine F. Klein and Professor Dr. Lisa Radtke Bliss. Kindly take over. Thank you.
Lisa, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you for that really nice introduction. We're so pleased to be with you all today. And before we get started, I just wanted to say a few words about why Catherine and I decided that this topic would be something very timely for us to talk about today. And it was especially interesting hearing, you know, this notion of using theater and other music and other ways of connecting with people about legal issues. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is this intersection between law and other disciplines, other professions. You know, in our work, we really think that looking at this intersection is really a cutting edge area for law clinics and for clinical education and pedagogy. So it's something that that we think is worth talking about. It sort of challenges us and pushes us to think more deeply about the work that we do, and to not remain kind of in our silos, but sort of reach out and look outward as clinical educators. And also think about what we can learn from other disciplines. So, challenging our own assumptions. This also flows really well from a lot of the work that Catherine Klein and I have done in a lot of international contexts. And thank you so much for mentioning the TOT. We've worked together on a number of workshops, and this idea of, looking to other disciplines, trying experiments in our clinics, listening to what people are doing in other places is really meaningful to us. So it's really fun for us, I think, to be part of a symposium that's in India. Right now we're in the United States. Some of the benefits, I think, of the pandemic are that it has helped us realize that we can also engage with one another. So we have a bit of a time change, but fortunately it's a decent time for all of us. And we're just really happy to be with you all in this virtual space. Just a word about where we are. We're on the East Coast. We were talking this morning. There's some snow in DC, no snow here in Atlanta where I am, but just to give you a sense of where we are, we thought that would be helpful. A little roadmap for what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start in a moment with a quick write, and then discuss some of the concepts that relate to this notion of interdisciplinary or interprofessional work, and what that looks like or can look like in different contexts. And then we're going to share some examples with you of the way that we've incorporated these concepts into our own clinics. And then we're going to invite you, as mentioned, to have some small group discussion about some of the ideas, to see where you think you, see something, what interests you, and where you might be able to take this. And we'll do some debrief, and we'll have some reflections. But right now, we're going to just start with a quick write.
Thank you, Lisa. We wanted to start with this. We often start with a quick write in our classes. But before that we do this, I just wanted to add my own expression of gratitude to all of you who have invited us, and our very wonderful co-presenters. We're honored to be part of this session. And I just want to tie one thing back to, I attended the opening ceremony for this, and Stephen Barnes talked about 5 things that connected the world. And he mentioned food, art, music, sports, and education. And that stuck with me because I was thinking about it for several days now, thinking that's probably very true. And so the arts and music, and we need to be using these things more. So thank you for one of the themes of this panel. But okay, so we wanted you just to take a minute. Don't agonize over this, but just think what word or phrase you think about when you think about interdisciplinary clinics. And just enter your word in the chat, just so we can see what people might be thinking. What's one word or phrase that you think about?
Lisa, there is one request. We have made you host. Can you please make me host, and then we'll be able to break out the groups.
We're not going to do groups right now. I just want, yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you can manage that, that would be good. But otherwise, I thought my colleagues are here to help me, and okay, we can manage the breaking of groups.
Okay. Thank you, Varsha. But for this, we're not going to go into groups. We just want you to add something to the chat.
Sure.
What do you think about? What comes to mind?
So we'll keep, we will also keep the track of what is getting written in the chat, right?
We should all be able to see it, I think.
Okay.
I would be, if everybody does it to,
You can always look at the chat. There is a icon there, and press that, and you will be able to see what are written in chat.
if everybody would choose to everyone so that your
Yes.
chat would be public, that would be
Yes.
great.
Yeah, and I can see the chat right now. I'm just going to lift up some of the comments from the quick write.
Right.
Here are some ideas.
Great, because I haven't seen them yet. Okay, now I.
Pragmatic, collaboration, child rights clinic, interdisciplinary clinics, educating for justice.
I see the world is one. I always like that concept.
Exchange of ideas.
So can we start making the groups?
You can
No,
start
not,
making the,
or you can
you
start,
can
but
make the groups, just don't put people in groups yet.
Right. And we break it for 8 minutes as suggested by you? Both of you?
Correct,
8 minutes?
correct.
All right. So we are breaking up the groups, and 8 persons per group as
Varsha,
participants.
not yet, not yet,
Not yet. Okay.
not yet. We're doing, it'll be another 20 minutes or so
All
before we
right.
do that.
All right. All right. So
Exchange
let
of
me know
not-
when, yeah, let me know when sort of we want to break up the group, right?
Okay, we'll let you
Sure.
know.
Thank
There's
you.
there's a slide. You'll know. We'll
Yes.
tell you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Some other ideas, science and art workshops, broader horizon of knowledge.
Exchange of knowledge, work conjointly.
More
Okay.
expertise, fusion. I love that. Fusion,
Mhm.
collaboration.
So a lot of good
diversity.
ideas here, some specific context in which there might be some application, and then there's just some concept about the process. And those are both great things to focus on. Okay, well, so keep those in mind as we're going to now talk about some of the concepts as we see them. But of course, your ideas, when you get into the small groups later, are going to be important to discuss also. So thank you for participating in this way. And if you can keep adding to the chat if you want to throughout the presentation. But I think Lisa, maybe now would be.
Sure. So the first thing I wanted to share with you was just, you know, this idea of multidisciplinary versus interdisciplinary, and talk a little bit about those terms, just so that we're clear what we mean. And from our perspective, multidisciplinary means that each discipline approaches a problem from their own perspective. So they stay in their own, what we call silo, or they stay in their own space, but they're all kind of looking at a problem from their own lens. Interdisciplinary, or the more, I would say more newer term is interprofessional. Although often you will see those terms applied interchangeably, and even I use them interchangeably, but interdisciplinary or interprofessional is really more about integrating a team approach. And so that is, you know, working as a team among people from different disciplines or professions, and sort of each stepping out of their own silo to work together with other people so that they have the best outcomes. And discipline is essentially study of a body of knowledge, and a profession is people who are who have, you know, studied that body of knowledge but are now working in a space with people from other professions. And I work very closely, I'll share with you in a few minutes, I work very closely with the medical profession, and people in the health professions definitely use this term interprofessional rather than interdiscipline. But in any case, our aspiration is to be more interdisciplinary or more interprofessional, to work with others, and, you know, really connecting that back to some of the ideas that you had, and the conversation that we had about, you know, using theater and the arts. This idea that sometimes we can have better outcomes if we get out of our own profession and try and use, engage with, or use the thinking of other folks. So how do we relate this to clinics? In the clinic context, this is a collaboration between or among law students and faculty, with students and or faculty in other professional schools or other professions. And it really is a way to address multidimensional problems that are faced by clients. One big reason that we're seeing a lot of growth in this area in clinics is, you know, people are coming to realize that legal problems happen in a bigger context that requires additional services. So people that have legal problems often have other problems too. And it can really help clients to sort of integrate with other disciplines or other professions to help clients, you know, help address the whole client. There's also, you know, in some countries, there's really a crisis in the availability of civil legal services for low-income people. And so, you know, definitely being able to pull in other services to help folks makes a big difference. There's also always a need to be thinking about new and innovative ways to deliver legal services. And we think this is one of them. We think that there's a lot to be gained by this kind of collaboration. And just the idea that, you know, it's really important to get professions working together to help clients. We can, you know, really meet clients' needs and goals if we work with other professionals. You'll see a lot of different collaborations. There's, you know, a wide range, just a couple examples, and then we're both going to share in a little more detail some examples of our own. But you might see clinics collaborating with doctors and medical students, social workers and social work students, business school students, engineering students. Some clinics work with environmental engineers, nursing, public health, education, community organizers, architects and designers. So really you know, you're only limited by your imagination in terms of who you might collaborate with. And then some just important characteristics of interdisciplinary models. The idea is that this is a real sharing relationship. So it's not just, you know, focused on the lawyer or the legal aspect and the lawyer's in charge. This is a real sharing, you know, equal collaboration. There's also, you know, this idea that we rely on the knowledge and expertise of all of the people in the collaboration, from whatever discipline they're from. And then, you know, really understanding sort of the fundamental ethos, which is that law is only a part of a comprehensive approach that we want to use to meet the needs of our clients. But we understand law is just a part of it, and helping clients in other areas is just as important. And then, you know, this, again, getting back to creativity, you know, being innovative, using imagination, coming up with other ways to assist our clients. Okay, now we're going to share a little bit about our own experiences in this area.
Okay, so from my introduction, you heard that I work in a family law clinic. It's called the Families in the Law Clinic, and it's not family law because it's meant to embrace the many different issues that might come up because of somebody's relationship in a family. And I have for a long time worked on the issue of domestic violence and intimate partner violence. That and I do a lot of emergency sort of legal cases, but it's also something that we can see the limits of the law working in the area of domestic violence. I also represent a lot of immigrant children who have been either abused, neglected, or abandoned by their parents in order to get status. And so the range of needs that my clients have go way beyond what I can do as a lawyer. So I wanted to just share briefly three smaller collaborations, interdisciplinary work that I have done at Catholic University. Lisa has a very much more sophisticated model, but I wanted to show that you can do interdisciplinary work in small projects, in small ways, in different ways, just to, it doesn't have to be your whole program is that way. So I want to share just three short descriptions of some collaborations. Catholic University has a social work school, and many of your universities have a lot of different departments. So the first two collaborations have to do with my collaboration with different departments at Catholic University. So the first is with the School of Social Work, and we have a MSW graduate student who has been placed in our clinic doing their field work, and they are supervised by a faculty member at the social work school. But sorry, my phone is ringing, but I'm just going to ignore that because, excuse me for a minute. So the social work students helps our clinic get emergency food. We have a lot of food insecurity in the District of Columbia. Housing, they help with housing, counseling. They help work with us on trauma because social workers are much more educated on the issue of trauma. So the faculty members and the students work with us on helping to understand our clients. So that's been a very successful collaboration. The second one is with the Department of Modern Languages. Now, as in India, the United States has many different languages. In the District of Columbia, there's 150 languages spoken with some regularity. Most of our clients that are non-English speakers speak Spanish. So we have worked with them to place some advanced Spanish students with us. And they have we work developing a class that is about interpreting and translation. So these are very advanced language students, and they come in, their field placement is with us in the clinic for the semester, and they help us in all sorts of ways working with our clients. And that's been a great assistance to us because meeting the needs of people with multilingual needs is something that all of us need to know how to do. And so we're teaching, it's a valuable thing for our students to learn how to work with interpreters. And it's also serving the clients in our community. The third one was a women's self-empowerment group. And we worked with a community organizer in order to do that. And the role of the clinic students was very much like a facilitator, not a leader. We wanted the women to be the leader. This is a very, as community organizers want the people front and center. So they led the way and we just did what we could. They would tell us what help they needed and we would help them with that. So that was a very, we provided daycare, we provided food, we provided a lot of space, but the women set the agenda and we helped facilitate that. And so that was a good collaboration that we had to do. But There's many others. I'm now going to go think about our performing arts. We have a great performing arts and music school. I'm now going to be thinking about how we might utilize collaborations with them. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So I'm going to share a little bit about my clinic. And I love that we started with Catherine's examples, because they're great examples of ways that you can sort of enter into this interdisciplinary or interprofessional approach without sort of going, with a really, sort of huge model. And before I start talking, I will say that the clinic that I'm about to talk to, it's a medical legal partnership. And the clinic was formed with the explicit purpose of being interdisciplinary. So that was our goal from the start. And we taught our first clinic class in January of 2007. And, one of the reasons that we started this clinic is because my longtime collaborator and colleague, Sylvia Cayley, was a legal aid lawyer, but before she became a legal aid lawyer, she was a nurse. And she found that while she was representing clients through legal aid, which is our civil legal services provider, she relied a lot on her nursing expertise. And we were fortunate to get a startup grant from a foundation that's affiliated with Coca-Cola, which is based here in Atlanta, to start this collaboration as a medical legal partnership. Now, I will say that this didn't start overnight. A lot of what I'm going to talk about are things that we've built into our program over a long period of time. So just keeping that in mind. So before I start talking, I'd like you to just post in the chat some of your thoughts about what factors actually influence a person's health. What are the things that affect people's health? I just invite you to post in the chat. Stress, it's a big one. What you eat, so food, lifestyle, diet, hygiene, environment, pollution, poverty. Yeah, money, poverty, happiness, education, social structure leading to distress, home environment. Yeah, so all of these things, where we live, availability of medical services, alcoholism, genetics. I mean, all of these things go into what we know as, health. And for our clients that we represent, where they live, whether they have access to healthy food, what the environment is there a lot of pollution? We do have a lot of pollution in my city, in Atlanta. We also have very high humidity, and that makes a difference. The combination of pollution, humidity, also allergens, can really have an impact on people who have breathing problems. Yeah, so the environment, all kinds of factors, access to medical care. Yeah, so all of these things are factors in our client's health. And so that's really what we're looking at when we see any client. I just wanted to share, our partnership is known as the Health Law Partnership. And the clinic that I work in is the Health Law Partnership Legal Services Clinic. So we call it HELP for short. And this is sort of a collaboration among several partners. So I'm with Georgia State Law. So we're one of the partners. Our other partner is Atlanta Legal Aid Society, which is the Atlanta legal services provider. And the other provider is Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, which was mentioned. They're, one of the largest critical care providers in the United States. So they see children not only from Atlanta, but all over the Southeast. So here's a little bit about our model. So we have a clinic. It is 6 credit hours. It's 4 credit. We have law students working in our clinic, medical students, medical residents, and over time, we've had graduate students who are getting a master's in bioethics, public health, social work, and other disciplines. So, in order to have all these different professional learners come and participate with us in their clinic, we have relationships with Morehouse School of Medicine, Emory School of Medicine, and then we've got students coming to us from all over the United States to do this elective rotation. Georgia State itself does not have a medical school, which is why we had to collaborate with other schools in town that do have medical schools. And that's made a big difference in our ability to offer this interprofessional, interdisciplinary experience for our students. A little bit about our clinic. So, when we talked about all of those factors that affect a person's health, the idea is that our health law clinic is designed to represent families and children and address their social determinants of health. So all of those things, the environment, the home, the education, the access to medical care, all of those things are things that we are looking at from the legal point of view, and our medical partners are helping us on the medical side. And our clinic in particular focuses on children. And the reason for that is because our partner is a children's hospital. So that's how we decide who we're going to represent, is children and families that are sent to us from the doctors. But you don't have to just, if you're interested in this model, you don't have to just think about it as something for children. There's lots of other areas. There are community health clinics, there's school-based health clinics or health law clinics. And these collaborations can also be population-based. So there are some law school clinics that do elder law, and they've got medical partners working with them, or refugees, children, women, people with disabilities. So a lot of it depends on, what is the need in a particular community. And sometimes it depends on, if there's an outside funder who wants to support this kind of work, might have to do something with the interests of the funder. There are also some medical legal clinics that can be specific, as in the family violence example, or human rights. So lots of different ways to be thinking about how you could incorporate other professions, other disciplines into a law school clinic. One other thing I just wanted to mention briefly was, in addition to the direct service work we do and some of the general advocacy work that we do and the education that we do of law and medical students, a big goal of ours is to evaluate what we're doing. So research and evaluation. So really putting some time into thinking about how we know about the impact of the work that we do. So we collect and study a lot of data about the clients that we represent. We measure the impact of our work on our patients and clients. Sometimes we will kind of slice up the data and look at, for example, we represent a lot of children with autism, a lot of children with asthma, with epilepsy, other conditions. And so we will look at whether our intervention with working together with the medical partners made any difference in the child's health, in the family's financial circumstance, in their living circumstance. So we measure our impact on clients. We measure the impact of our education of students. So we do surveys with medical students and with law students. And then, basically we're just trying to figure out, are these partnerships effective? Do they make a difference? The one warning is that sometimes working with other disciplines takes more time. Collaboration takes more time. And so we want to make sure we're being effective in how we work together.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. That was an excellent look at your clinic, which is really a wonderful model to be striving towards. Lisa and I are both very devoted to giving people time to sort of process the ideas that we've been presenting. And so that was our idea about letting you be in small Zoom groups for a few minutes to think about some of the ideas that we shared and think about your own experience and your own ideas. What excites you about this concept of working with different disciplines? And what do you see as the principal benefits and what are some of the challenges? We're going to only give you 8 minutes or so. And so obviously you're not going to be able to address all of this. And again, these are just to spark ideas that you have. So I dropped into the chat. That's what I was trying to find a minute ago. It's always more complicated to do things during a session. But anyway, we put into the chat a small handout that just basically gives you this question, these questions and prompts for you to consider, but also going to ask you that there's going to be a number of groups and we're not going to be able to hear back from all of you, but it would be wonderful if your group, after brainstorming together for a few minutes, comes up with one idea that the group wants to share with everybody. And then if you would be prepared to have somebody in your group enter that into the chat so that we can all see it. And hopefully we'll be able to save the chat. I don't know if this is set up so that people could save the chat, but then you'd be able to take it home with you too. If not, we'll figure out some way to get it to you. Okay, so now we're going to put you into 2 small groups, randomly assigned. So don't worry if you don't know anybody. And we'll see you back here in about 8 minutes. So Varsha, are you doing the small groups?
Yes. Catherine, will you please stop sharing the screen? We are facing some technical glitch here and we are struggling as a host to start the breakout group. I as a co-host not able to start the groups. So give us half a minute.
Okay.
So kindly stop sharing your slide. Yeah.
Yeah, I did stop sharing.
Yeah, you did. Sure. Thank you. Dear participants, yeah. Kindly, yeah, we are ready with we have solved the technical glitch. We are ready with the option.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Groups now. Yes.
Thank you.
So it'd probably be good if people turned their cameras on if they could during the small groups at least. So you can see one another.
Yeah.
Varsha, are you all set or would you like us to try to do it?
Yes, we have created the groups.
Okay.
And we'll meet after 8 minutes, right?
Okay.
So yeah, we have set up the this kind of setting. Yeah, sure. We are breaking.
It doesn't seem to be happening yet, but sometimes it takes a minute.
Varsha, all okay?
Number of minutes and it is taking some time. Kindly wait. Yeah, we have done it. So yes, all the groups are open now.
So Varsha, there's still 32 people here. Okay.
Here it is showing that the groups are created.
But
Rooms are created.
so maybe for the people that are still here, you have to press to join the, you have to say you will join the group. So when you're invited, say yes. That might be the issue.
Oh, all right. Right. Yeah. Groups are created. Arpit is reporting that he has joined a group.
Right, but
I think you may be as a co-host not able to join. Shall I tick
Yeah, we don't need to be in a group.
no, we don't want to be, we're not going to be in a, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
all right.
there's 27 people still not in a group.
Groups are created. Groups are created and they are working.
Okay.
And anyone who's in the main room, you're invited to join a breakout.
Sorry, I didn't get you, Lisa.
I was just saying anyone who's still in this main room is invited to join a breakout.
Yeah, you wish to join? We can manually do that.
I do not need to join.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Lisa, it looks like people are in 7 different rooms.
I see 11.
But I'm not seeing people in 8 or 9, 10 or 11. Are you? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, and we're seeing something different. I think we could have some people in the chat, but I think we could also ask for a few oral reports, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And And I just popped the discussion questions in the chat.
Yeah, I saw that. It's good.
Yes, groups are discussing. I have visited 2-3 groups.
Excellent. I know it's fun to go in and just
Yes,
hop in, isn't it? Yeah,
yes.
I know. I think they're very cool. I love the breakout rooms. We almost use them in all our classes.
Oh, right. Yeah, they are really good in a way. Actually, 30 minutes. 1 minute. So, chat, rooms recording, breakout rooms. Close all the rooms. We'll be closing as a lick dating. Yeah, we'll be closing this in a minute. I have broadcasted the message.
Okay. Do you see the clock at the, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Probably that wasn't enough time, but we were just cognizant of want to get to our next speaker also. Lisa, are you going to kick off the debrief and then I'll pick up?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat it?
No, I cannot. My phone talking to me.
Yeah, few seconds to go.
Okay, perfect.
Can you see my screen now?
I
Yes.
can.
Yes, we can.
Oops. I cannot see the chat for some reason.
Oh, it's up at the top when you're sharing the screen.
Yeah.
You have to go to the
Close it
three
again.
dots at the top.
Let this become 0, 0.
Okay.
Yeah. All breakout rooms closing 58 seconds.
You see the controls at the top? At
Oh.
least that's what happens to mine.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just received a message. All breakout rooms will be closed in 48 seconds.
Okay. When I share my screen, what's usually at the bottom goes to the top of the screen, and to the far right, there's an option that lets you click on the dots that says chat.
No, I can't.
Yeah,
find
it
the
is.
bar.
There is a icon is there right below the screen. You have to, I think, enter the full screen.
It is full screen.
We'll make it
Yeah.
less than full screen maybe then.
Oh, yeah. Then try less than
No.
full screen. And I'm able to see your desktop instead
Oh,
of
okay. I
the
found it
slide
now.
you shared.
Okay.
The breakout room will close in a second.
Okay.
I'm opening all the rooms. No, sorry. Yeah. Right. They're all back.
Okay. Wonderful. welcome back. We wanted to take some time to just hear some of your thinking about you know, when we think about doing this kind of clinic, we can see that there are opportunities and also some challenges. And so we want to kind of separate our conversation to first think about what are the opportunities by doing this kind of work in either a small scale or large scale. What opportunities do you see for students? What opportunities do you see for clients? And what opportunities do you see for faculty? So I want to invite first people to share, you know, what opportunities they might see for students. And if you want to unmute yourself, you could just share in a few words, or I want to invite you to also talk in the chat. Yeah, so one, collaboration with bioethics and integration of lawyers with medical graduates. So yeah, that's a real benefit for students. Anyone else want to share something they identified as an opportunity? Oh, okay, can't unmute yourself. Please pop in the chat then, thank you. I'm sorry about that. For the faculty, it offers opportunity for research. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I will say, from the work that I've done, we have worked very, very closely with a doctor, and we have presented all over the world with him. And we have co-authored many, many articles with him. Most of the articles that we have published have been in medical journals, but also published in law journals. Bridging the gap between academia and legal practice. Yeah. Students learn non-legal solutions are available. That's a great point and a really important opportunity.
And there was one about students learn that to be holistic. And that is, we take our clients as whole people. They're not just a legal problem. They're whole people with a variety of different problems. And keep reminding ourselves that is very important.
Yeah, I think that's one of the critical, you know, value added, I would say. Yeah, what about from our clients? Oh, someone else mentioned different age group of people can provide better insights. So you're diversifying the population of people that are doing this work. So their age, their training, their background.
Exactly, it's a variety of different ways that we're all different and bringing different perspectives. That's incredibly valuable.
I like this suggestion also, develop sensitivity among the students as well as the faculties. I have to say that's one piece of the richness of the work that I do is that I have learned so much about the medical profession and how doctors work and a lot of the challenges that they face. I feel like that helps me understand them better. It helps me understand my own physician better. And it just helps us have more compassion, I think, for other people in other professions.
Are there any other benefits that faculty members might see? We talked about research opportunities, enhancing the skills of the faculty. Definitely, we learn new skills when we're, you know, it is putting us in the student role again, and we're learning new language, new skills, new ways to think about things.
Here's a suggestion. Clients benefit because they're getting the consultation at one place. They need to not go to different places, which is huge. Particularly, I mean, that's important for anybody, but particularly our clients who, many of whom have small children, they may not have access to transportation. Them being able to access their medical and legal services together is huge.
we're seeing such great ideas. We can't lift them all up, but just one more on the faculty that I just saw was about field exposure and real-time engagement in the legal practice. And as academics, we're always looking for new depth to our understanding of how the law operates in the real world. And this offers us a real window and a lens into looking at what are the laws and how do they affect real people, and what's being implemented, what's not being implemented, what change do we see that needs to be made. This is definitely where you get your legislative advocacy agenda, from seeing what the real needs of people are.
I think these are such wonderful ideas, and I'm sorry that we don't have time to sort of highlight them all. It's probably good to move to challenges now, because there are challenges, and
not as much fun.
Yeah, we didn't want to hide that part. So I just want to invite you guys to share any challenges that you saw, whether from student, client, or faculty perspective.
Meeting of minds. Yes, I mean, different people from different disciplines often see things very differently. I mean, that's one of the benefits, but it's also a challenge. So you have to be in that growth mindset that we all wish we had at all times, which we always don't, that we can accept and learn from different people.
Yeah, here's a challenge to develop a methodology that's suitable for all the other disciplines involved. That's a huge issue. And we teach some joint classes with the medical school where we have law and medical students working together. So we've really worked hard on those specific classes so that we teach them joint problem solving, and we have some hypotheticals that they work on together. But when we have medical students in our clinic, we kind of just absorb them into the legal side. But one way we address that is we have the medical students teach our students about common childhood illnesses that we see over and over in our caseload. So the medical students are actually doing some teaching, and then the law students are teaching the medical students about the legal standards that we need to apply in different cases.
I'm seeing a lot of things about there's sort of higher level differences about the different values and language and approaches of the professions, but there's also the logistical challenges, like schedules. Are the different schedules of the professions the same, and are they available at the same time, and can this, are there holidays the same time? All those kinds of things, and how do we assess them if the different schools have different assessment tools? All challenges for the faculty. And also for the students, thinking they're also learning about one profession and insecure in the profession we're teaching them as lawyers, and now they have to be insecure in a different profession. And so depending on their comfort with learning and being in ambiguous situations, for some students, it can cause stress.
And I want to just acknowledge like all of the challenges that I've seen in the chat. We haven't, again, been able to highlight all of them, but they're very real. And to just offer some optimism, even though those challenges exist. And again, the project that I've been working on has been going for 12 years. And so, it takes a while to really fully integrate all of these pieces. When we started, it was just two law professors and no doctors, no law students. I mean, sorry, we had law students, but no medical students, no social work students. And we had to slowly develop relationships to build in all of the components that we have. So it happens over time. And it can be hard. The challenges, I don't want to minimize them, but the rewards have been amazing. And it's a very rich environment to learn in with students. So maybe we'll move to just final observations. If people want to just share in the chat, your most important takeaway from our discussion today.
I'm seeing the idea of working with different age groups of people. As an older person, I hope that came from a younger person that might be wanting to work with me. That'd be lovely. Methodology. And just thinking about the different institutions and that could be involved.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult but possible. That's good.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah, I mean, that was really our hope with this session, is to just get you all thinking about possibilities and opportunities. And certainly from the university standpoint, lots and lots of universities are very keen to foster more interdisciplinary collaboration across the university. And so there may be opportunities here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Well, you can keep adding your ideas. They're all really valuable, and I love hearing them. And I hope that we're able to save this chat so that people could reflect back on it. But we just wanted to conclude saying how wonderful it is to have been asked to be here today. We had a lot of fun thinking about what to talk about with you today. Lisa and I did, so our collaboration, I guess both of us love collaboration. That's why this is a topic that's near and dear to us. I think we all, I always seek opportunities to work with different people. But for us, working with different professions, it's a really exciting way to teach. And our students are finding it's a very exciting way to learn. And we think we serve our clients better because of this collaboration. And as a professor, I really do think that this has incredibly enriched my view of the law and how it works in society. And therefore, as a person devoted to social justice, anything that enriches my understanding and humility about how to achieve social justice is very welcome to me. So Lisa, any final words?
No, just thank you so much. We wanted to share our contact information with all of you in case you have any follow-up questions or anything that we could share with you about our experience in this area. So thank you so much. It was really a privilege to join all of you this morning or this evening for you all. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa and Catherine. As you must have seen, a lot of feedback, that very thought-provoking, very interesting, truly interdisciplinary, meaningful, and so on. So thank you again. And we move to the next speaker. I am very happy to invite Professor Dr. M.R.K. Prasad, who is going to speak on social justice through performing arts. Professor Dr. Prasad is working with VM Salgaocar College of Law, Goa University. He is the first recipient of Vanderbilt Fulbright Scholarship in Clinical Legal Education. He has served as a chairman of Moot Court Society, Legal Aid Society, and ADA board at the college. Also instrumental in establishing and functionalizing of campus legal aid setup which runs 25 offline legal aid centers and 3 specialized clinics, that is on child rights, consumer rights clinic, and disability rights clinic. The college uses legal aid clinics using performing arts like street plays, comics, roles, plays in several legal aid activities. And for this initiation, the college has received Institutional Excellence Award 2011 from SILF, that is Society of Indian Law Firms, and MILAT, Menon Institute of Legal Advocacy and Training. I invite Professor Dr. M.R.K. Prasad. Sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please do. I'm stop sharing my screen. Yeah, sure.
Very late good evening for everyone. I hope you could see my slide.
Yes, we are able to see it.
Okay. Throughout the history, we could see that art has been used as a primary tool for communication of raising awareness on social justice issues and also bringing positive change. So when I was asked to talk about promoting social justice to arts, I was a little bit worried, what am I going to speak? And also, I was not very keen in the beginning because I was a little worried. However, I looked through and what we have done and what the law schools can do. So my presentation would be on, first we will see why this performing arts need to be introduced in the law school curriculum is one aspect that I'm looking at it. And the second aspect is how this performing arts can be used by the law students in promoting social justice. These are the areas that I'm like to look at it. Just to start with, any professional education will have 3 aims. One is it should make the students to think. That means we offer the knowledge, so therefore they would think about it. And we ask them to perform. That means that we need to teach them the skills. That means if you are a lawyer, you should think, you should be able to perform what you learn in the law school. And also being a professional, you should be able to conduct yourself, that is the attitude, what kind of ethics that you should follow. So these are common for any professional education. But I believe that the legal education is different from other professionals. Therefore, I expect that the legal education or the legal profession, that should require an additional requirement, that is the legal professionals must be socially relevant. To be socially relevant, your legal education has to be socially relevant. That means, unlike other professions, the burden or the obligation is more on the legal education to be relevant socially, and the lawyers must be relevant socially. So therefore, legal education cannot be treated as a technocratic education. It must be looked as a liberal learning. So what I mean is that the legal education needs to be transformed into a justice education. So therefore, law should be taught in a humanistic touch. You can't simply teach them the appellate court judgments and tell what the law is, but we need to bring humanistic touch while we are teaching the law. Because the lawyers are supposed to establish an equitable society. If you look at the Indian Constitution, and the Constitution came in a time where there is a great division of this country and large number of poor people. So it is expected that the lawyers and the law should play a key role in bringing equitable society. So it does mean that the legal education and the legal professions supposed to promote a culture of lawfulness among the public. So therefore, the law schools being the starting point should have a social justice agenda when they are teaching them. Okay. And because most of us are the clinical law teachers, I firmly believe that the clinical legal education is supposed to teach these social justice values to the law students. Though it could be taught in a substantive law courses, but mostly that obligation is on the clinical law teachers. So I'm showing you two basic statements. One is in the Carnegie report. It says in America, this Carnegie report talking about the American law schools. One of the strong statement that comes out is that the law schools create people who are smart without any purpose. That means the law colleges or the law schools are creating lawyers, smart lawyers, but they don't have any social purpose. So that's a worrying factor. And the second one that I took from one of my legal aid cell, when I asked the students what are the issues that you are looking at, he says, one of the students stood up and said that we have all the way to go to moon and back, but we have a trouble crossing the street to meet our neighbor. That means law school students are not engaging with the community. So the community engagement is one of the most important aspect of legal education, which is missing. Now the question whether it is a law school or a lawyer school is well settled now. We understand that it is no more just a law school, it is a lawyer school. That means the legal education has to train the law students to become lawyers. So that is the fundamental obligation of a law school. So therefore, when I traveled across the country, I put this picture and asked the students who are about to venture into the legal profession, what comes to your mind when I say a lawyer? So I compiled all those responses, few of them. You could look at the range of attributes to the lawyer coming from the students who are about to enter into a legal profession. If you look at those red, they are really worrisome. Though there are some of positives like the lawyer as a justice provider, as a social reformer, is also a law reformer. But some of them says that lawyer is a knife thrower, is a hired gun, a cheater, and a money extractor. So therefore, what is expected role of lawyer, that is in green, and what the bad name that the legal profession is getting, that I put in a red color. And this is not my perception of the lawyer, but this is the perception of the Indian law students who are about to venture into it. So therefore, the question is, what are we going to do about it? So the first thing we need to understand, there are two types of gaps. One is there is a gap between law school and the legal profession. This is common. The level of gap may be different between the countries, but there is a gap between law and theory, what we teach in the college and what they practice. And we also understand that the learning in the law school is not sufficient for the students to participate in the course. So therefore, how do we address this gap? Mostly we are using clinical legal education to reduce this gap. This is one. That means this is purely talking about the professional skills that the law students are lacking when they enter into a profession. But there is another gap. The another gap is that the disjunction between law and society. That means what the law talks about and what the community has, there is a lot of disjunction. What is this disjunction? The language that we speak as a lawyers, at least in India, we speak in English. The law college, they teach in English, except a few states. But the community doesn't speak that language. And also the legal language is different from the normal language. The vocabularies that we are using, the society has absolutely no clue. And the legal education basically promotes the litigation oriented. And the society may not be ready for the litigation. Clients may want amicable settlement. And also all the law schools are urban centered, urban focused legal education that they offer. And mostly what we discuss in the law school is philosophical. Very less we discuss about what is the ground realities. The values that the law school talks about, the values that the society has, are vast different. So this is the another gap that we have. So as a result, the another disjunction that I am looking at is the law students are cut off from the professional realities and the social realities. That means they are neither professionally know what is going to happen in the profession, they are not ready in the law schools, and also the social realities. And the law schools are very narrowly focused. And also, if you look at the teaching methods, of course, in India, the most prominent teaching method is a lecture method. Maybe US with Socratic method, case method, and some of the colleges in India also follow the Socratic and case method. Some of them are problem-based method. But these are the methods not enough to address this disjunction. That means the whole attitude of the teaching in the law schools happens to make you as a lawyer, think like a lawyer. That's what the caption they use in American law schools. So they make you as a hardcore lawyer. These teaching methods are not enough for addressing the social justice issues in the law colleges. So therefore, the question is what the law schools are expected to do. The first thing is that we need to understand the role of the law schools. So role of the law schools, I look at three. First is law as an academic discourse, naturally, that we need to teach academics in the law school. Second one, that legal education also should provide skill training because law is a profession, requires the performance. And the third one is, the most important one is, how do you make these people socially relevant? That is one of the biggest challenge. So law as an academic discourse, we have more or less figured out. The second part of skill training, to a large extent, the clinical law teachers are providing skills. But how do we make students socially relevant? The clinics, of course, one of the way, but that is not the sufficient. So therefore, we need to understand that socially relevant education is also part of law school. So therefore, the curriculum, that means the law school curriculum must respond to these new skills. So we need to think how socially we would engage the students. How do we make the students to become lawyers who become an agents of change? And the interdisciplinary approach that we are talking is unknown to the law schools, though we have in India 5 years law course which talk about sociology, economics, and we know how these subjects were taught without any connection with the law. Okay. And also the challenge is, how do we teach these law teachers through this? So the method is one, using art in classroom. Second one is using art for social justice. That means bring art into the classroom, teach the law in a better manner to the law students. In turn, law students also use the same kind of art for the purpose of bringing social justice. So now coming to the classrooms, we must understand that the social justice must be addressed, issue of the social justice must be addressed by the law schools. And we understand that and recognize that the arts, or the performing arts, what we call, enhance the human experience. Now, when you are talking about the issues of labor, issues of disabled person, issues of children, women, art is a better form to give a better human experience. And art is a powerful tool for transformation of the society and individuals. Okay, so why art is required? Art redefines what it means to think like a lawyer. Because as a clinical teacher, I would say, suppose a woman comes to the clinic and says that there is a domestic violence. As a law student, immediately we will say, we will file a case. We will approach the police, register the case, file a case against your husband. But what if the husband throws her out? Where she is going to stay? So you don't think that is a lawyer's obligation. But when you bring art into the class, that makes you to think like a lawyer. So therefore, we could use art as a narrative because it would increase the learning experience of the last student. It widens. I think that's what we have seen when Lisa and Catherine presented. Many of us are given that the interdisciplinary approach would increase the learning experiences, legal analysis, etc. Okay. So art also introduced the law students to the social realities and struggles and solutions. So therefore, please don't think that legal education is simply confined to the classroom and to the judgments. Okay. So what I want to do now is I would just play a small song. Okay. It's in Telugu. This is a song sung by a person explaining the plight of migrant laborers. Okay. But it is in Telugu, therefore, what I will try to do is I'll just give you the gist here. Please read the gist, and then I will play this song. And you all know that when the COVID has the pandemic, when the pandemic came to India, we have all of a sudden we got a national lockdown, and the national lockdown was done in 3 days time, right? So I hope I'm sorry, just give me a second. Okay, so this is the gist of the song. He is talking about how his kids are at home, what happened to his crippled mother, what she is serving, and he says that the nation is great, but our lives are very small. And he says what kind of a life that we are leading is a bad life. And he says that there is no bigger disease than a poverty. And he pleads the government that we don't want buses, we don't want trains. Please allow me to go. We will go by walk. Okay, so I'll just play this song.
పిల్ల జల్లా ఇంటికాడ ఎట్లా ఉండ్రో నా ముసలి తల్లి ఏమి పెట్టి సాదుతుందో పూట పూట చేసుకొని బతికటోళ్ళం పూట గడవా ఇంత దూరం వచ్చినోళ్ళం దేశమేమో గొప్పదాయే మా బతుకులేమో చిన్నవాయే మాయదారి రోగమచ్చి మా బతుకు మీద మన్ను పోసే ఏమి బతుకు చెడ్డ బతుకు చెడ్డ బతుకు చెడ్డ బతుకు చెడ్డ బతుకు చెడ్డ బతుకు పేద రోగం కంటే పెద్ద రోగముందా అయిన వాళ్ళ కంటే పెద్ద అండ ఉందా కష్టకాలం ఇంటికాడ ఉంటే సారు కలిసిమెలిసి కల్లో గంజో దాగేటోళ్ళం పిల్లగాళ్ళు కన్నులల్లా విడవకుండా మెదులబట్టే ఇంటి దాని దుఃఖమేమో ఆగకుండా తరమబట్టే ఏమి చేతూ 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 బస్సులొద్దు బండ్లు వద్దు అయ్య సారు ఇడిసి పెడితే నడిసి నేను పోత సారు.
So imagine if you are teaching the rights of migrant workers, and in 4 hours, when you impose a lockdown, what kind of human right violations that happens? If you teach using these kind of art narratives, it will have a deep impact. In fact, when this song was sung and was shown, there are millions of people who could not stop crying. So that's the power of the art. So therefore, how do we use, what kind of art we could use in the classroom? These are some of the examples, like literature, we could use music, painting, statue, movies, etc. Okay. Now, what is the teacher's role in this? One is that you need to identify the content. And also you need to choose the necessary art form, because I understand law teachers are not artists, but we could take the help of the artists. So particularly the teacher's role is in identifying what kind of experiences that you want to give it to the students when you are teaching law. Whether it is a substantive law, whether it is a clinic, whether it is something else, it doesn't matter. But it depends on the teacher to identify content and choose the art form that you require. Now, I'm just giving you an example. Suppose this is a trial court, how it looks like in the in India. Suppose if you show this picture to the students and ask the students, what do you understand with this? There could be different narratives. For example, I look at the judge is sitting in an elevated position, and the client may be at the back side. So one way of looking at it is in the scheme of justice, the client is marginalized, or the judge is authoritative, the higher position it shows. Okay. So I'm going to show you the Supreme Court, how it looks. So what is the difference between the trial court and the Supreme Court? I'm just giving you only a pictures, but there could be several arts, literature that could use it. So the grandeur of the Supreme Court looks, maybe makes it as a bigger court, highest court, and imagine a normal person goes there. What would be his position? And this is a classic example of the Lady Justice that we all talk about. Now, suppose a first year students, when they join in the law college and show this picture and ask them what is they think about it. What is the purpose of the scale in her hand? Why the other hand has a sword in it? Why the Lady Justice was blindfolded, right? So these are the questions. Through art form, you could make the students to understand the relevance. Maybe the real story is that she blindfolded because she don't want to see how powerful the parties are, how rich or poor. She wanted to decide the case without any bias, fairness. But the attribution today is justice is blind. That's possible. And also there are a few more pictures I want to share. The same Lady Justice was given in different forms in cartoons. Okay. So when the justice see the lens of empathy, thinks that it is better to be blindfolded. So the pictures speaks volumes of the social justice issues. This is another classic example. And of course, this is my favorite. So there are many narratives. For example, this is a narrative. This is a picture on temple entry case when the Supreme Court has given a judgment that the Shabarimala temple should allow the entry of women. The major political parties are opposed, and the parties which are elected under the constitution disrespect the highest court judgment. So you could talk about so many issues by showing it. Is another classic example of the diversity. Okay. So the next few minutes, I would be talking about how law students are using art form for social justice. Basically, I am focused in my college what we have done. The law students could use art form for the awareness and build bigger constituencies, because art has no boundaries. That's most important. And through art, we meet the people where they are. That means they are not coming to your law school. You are going to their place. And art makes the people participatory. That's very, very, very important, that the community participate and community engage directly into the social justice initiatives. And the art gives the people whose voices are denied. That's very, very effective. And through art, we could teach social justice, we could educate people, we could create great experiences for the community members, and we could use it as a tool in addressing social justice. So these are some of the things that we have used in our college in engaging the community. I think I had skimmed across several literatures, how the liberal arts or the performing arts were used. The performing arts were used to educate and heal individuals. This is a very important aspect. And many correctional homes in America and in India, they are using this art form as a restorative justice. Reclamation of civil spaces, you must have seen that reclaiming the roads by the walkers, etc. We have painted so many roads saying that we are reclaiming the civil space. A lot of arts were encouraged in the prison because it has a healing power. The prisoners would, it would reduce the violence. It also used for the developing the communities. Particularly, this art form was used for sensitizing in environmental issues, homeless issues, and violence issues. Storytelling is another powerful form of performing arts, particularly the women empowerment. There are many stories of how an ordinary women have reached to the higher level with their struggles. And community outreach is very much possible with performing arts. Cross-community collaborations, you could use arts for that. And of course, religious tolerance, public health, poverty, peace, youth violence. These are the areas mostly performing arts are used. Now, who uses it? I think probably everybody uses it. The government, the media, civil society organizations, educational institutions, law enforcement agencies, even judiciary, correctional homes. Many of them use art for social justice initiatives. So what do we need? We need collaboration between the local artists, the schools, community groups, and youth, etc. So without the collaboration, this will not be possible. Therefore, if you want to use performing arts for the social justice initiatives, you need this kind of collaborations. So these are some of the pictures that my students have used performing arts as a very effective communication of social issues. The first one is the street place. I will just, this is the marketplace where my students are interacting with a skit. This is another picture. This is a bus stand. So there is on beach, wherever the people gather, we talk about legal literacy. The another method that we have used is using comics. So the students were trained by an NGO on how to draw comics. So this is a workshop that we have conducted, and they made some good cartoons. And the cartoons were exhibited in different places for the public. And they also went and pasted these in public places so that it gives you like consumer rights, child rights issues, women issues, etc. Then our college also have these clubs. The clubs have usually communicate the ideas through art form, because this is the issue of Black Life Matter. So that shows there is no boundaries. So we could take any social justice issue through art form. So if you look at the India map, it clearly says respect the existence or expect the resistance. So you could imagine that one line could tell how religious tolerance, regional tolerance is very important for the integration of a country. The third method that we have used is a capacity building with the communities through role plays. So the society, the community members were given the roles to play, and based on the role play, we teach them about the law. And the students engage with the community with the performing arts. And these are some of the initiatives that we have taken. We went to schools, teaching them different types of rights through skits. And we also introduced to the students how law works in the court by completely enacting the entire trial of the court, right from the beginning of the case reported to the case final conviction of the criminal. We have prepared a role play, and it was played in different schools so that the students would get an idea about how the law operates. So what are my final thoughts? That we need to expose the students to the art forms, different art forms. If you expose them, then that would create an interest among the students. The interest, I don't see that all the students who are interested would show the commitment. At least some of them will show the commitment. And if we encourage them, then the students usually use these kind of art forms for the purpose of legal literacy, etc. And also we need a networking with NGOs, networking with other stakeholders. That's very important. And the motivation to the teachers are very important, because it is a lot of work. Because teaching an hour class in the classroom is much easier than conducting one straight play, because the number of hours that you have to put, and most probably that your work is not recognized in terms of your workload of teaching in India. That's one of the biggest problem. So therefore, the motivation to the teachers is very important if you want to use it. And of course, involving of the community, that is one of the important aspects that we have to look at. So I would say that using art form to teach law, it has its many benefits, and it gives a range of understanding to the students what usually a law college teaching would not give them, or a section or a judgment would not give them. So that's why I really believe that teaching law through art form is a very effective method of communication. I think that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that brings to, in a way, on this time scale, stop to our journey. I feel very honored and happy to join a journey with participants who have done a lot of, who have shared a lot of ideas, thoughts, expressions, strategies, with a, with a lot of reflections, critique, envisioning, with complete sensitivity, empathy, sensibility, and conscientization process that we all wish to have when we talk about social justice and arts. And very special thanks to Professor Prasad, who lastly covered the role of arts in healing and dealing with violence, uh, which has become an eternal problem. And so many academicians and so many activists and so many civil actors, civil society actors, are struggling to deal with violence. And here he has shared his experiences on that. We have talked about a lot of themes starting from literature, and so I'm not naming the speakers now, but the kind of landscape that we have covered is starting from literature, ending with using arts for so many purposes. And we looked at legal service delivery, not only for client and market. Actually, we started a journey towards justice and social justice specifically. with a lot of sensibility and thought-provoking discussions. And and the main takeaways are basically that community engagement, community perspective, and community participation matters the most in the entire journey and the initiatives that we take up through arts. We looked at, we had the reflection on teachers' role and role of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary initiative. We need to be holistic. We stressed upon again and again. We also talked about shaping up
Krishna,
students.
we may have quick
Yeah,
questions
we just,
if anyone
All right.
have any questions, one or two.
all right, yeah, sure.
I mean, if any participants would like to share, their feedback or any questions, please feel free.
I have a question, sir. When we normally talk about clinical education, we haven't always referred social justice and social inclusion, but we never have heard about financial inclusion and financial justice, access to finance, and how law can involve in it. So, if panelists could share about how we can work in this area.
Any panelist? Professor Prasad, Professor Catherine, Lisa.
I think there are several clinics looking at the poverty issues. I think particularly in America, they have very specialized clinics for land rights and housing rights, etc. I think, but in India, when it comes to India, the specialized clinics are not yet taken place yet. So that is an area that we need to look at.
Thank you. Any other question?
I just say about specialized clinics in the United States, I'd say they have become more prevalent than a generalized poverty law clinic. I came out of a generalized poverty law clinic background, and then I became more specialized for a lot of reasons, but pedagogical reasons. But I think it's looking at the interdisciplinary work, it's time to broaden it out again. I think perhaps in the United States, we have become too specialized in some ways. And so, rethinking that would be a good thing.
Can we move towards enclosure of this? May I invite Arpit? Yeah,
Varsha ma'am, just one observation or just one thing I would like to share rather is that, I mean, yes, we've spoken about different forms of engagement and multidisciplinary approach. But it's just rather an observation because I once taught a course on public interest lawyering. So it's just that what happens or what invariably ends up, the ideas that we end up communicating is that, I mean, we as social change actors kind of acquire all the agency, and what happens is that we start treating the person, or for instance in India there is whole debate about agency of the lower caste, of the scheduled caste, of the scheduled tribes, of the OBCs. So what ends up happening in the classroom rather is that the student, which generally is coming from let's say the upper stratas of society, upper caste, upper class, is that the student then starts thinking of himself or herself as this actor and as someone who is responsible for all the social change, and the person who is maybe at the other end is simply just a passive receptor, that they do not have any agency in their own, and that they're not understood or thought of as someone who is capable to kind of address their own problems on their own as well. So we kind of become this messiah who is out there, working for everyone. So, I mean, if there could be some pedagogical insights that you could give, which specifically with regard to this. I guess that would be really helpful.
I don't mean to keep jumping in, but I spend a lot of time on that issue because, I mean, sort of the underlying values of respect for everybody and appreciation for everybody's talents, and seeing our clients as our teachers, and seeing all the different talents and skills that our clients have. So we spend a lot of time not being the savior of our clients, but being partners with our clients. So I don't know, it's just a theme that definitely runs throughout my clinic, and so that we don't kind of fall into the expert mentality.
Thank you.
I would also like to add one thing with the permission of the chair.
Yeah, please.
Actually, when we are dealing with any clinical activities, and particularly I will refer the issues related to development debates, more or less, instead of reconciling the conflicting issues and all, more or less we developed, that is what my observation I'm sharing, that bias approach is developed, and the development activities are always against the you can say the interest of the people. That is majority of the time that perspective is taken, though it may be possible in most of the cases, but not in all. At the grassroots level, realities are something different. So instead of sharing the balanced perspective, many times this clinical approach may turn up into a bias approach. That is what I have seen, and that is something I think we need to balance. Sir can correct me if I am wrong.
No, I think your experience is valued here, and so therefore there is no comment as such. This is taken as a feedback and also a sharing. Well, I think Purvi ma'am, I think we can stop here. May I request Arpit Sharma, who is assistant professor with Institute of Law, Nirma University. I invite him for a vote of thanks. Arpit?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. And I, Arpit Sharma, on the behalf of Institute of Law, Nirma University, and Southeast Asian for Justice Education, I just want to give would like to give a heartfelt thanks to all the resource person, Professor Krishna Deva Rao sir, Professor Katri, Professor Lisa, Professor MRK Prasad sir, for such a wonderful session where we are basically interacting, and so many thought-provoking things. Basically, so many takeaways are there. And I would like to thanks to Professor Dr. Purvi Pokhriyal for such a wonderful idea with respect to this international symposium. And I would like to thanks to Professor Varsha Ganguly for moderating this particular session. Last not least, all the participants. And this is the end of the session, not the symposium. Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, we are going to meet again. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Special thanks to our technical team, and thank you all for participating. I'm sure every participant is taking an inspiration, some ideas, some thoughts on social justice and arts with you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Professor Prasad.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.